These are the reasons why Brioni, one of the most prestigious tailoring houses in the world, should be absolutely dominating the luxury menswear market, yet somehow finds itself struggling to stay relevant in 2025. Picture this, a brand that literally invented the modern menswear fashion show in 1952, a company whose suits take 22 hours of expert handwork and 220 individual steps to complete. An Italian house that dressed James Bond for over a decade, clothed Hollywood legends from Clark Gable to Brad Pitt, and charges up to $43,000 for a single suit. Brioni should be untouchable. Instead, it is cycling through creative directors faster than a revolving door, laying off hundreds of workers and watching its core customer base slowly disappear. Founded in 1945 from the rubble of post-war Rome by master tailor Nazareno Fonticoli and businessman Gaetano Savini, Brioni emerged during Italy's economic miracle. The name comes from the Croatian Brioni Islands, once the summer residence of Yugoslav President Josip Broz Tito. From the very beginning, Brioni was about exclusivity, craftsmanship, and prestige. But here is what sets Brioni apart from every other luxury menswear brand. They did not just make clothes, they revolutionized how the world thought about men's fashion. In 1952, 7 years after opening their doors, Brioni staged the first menswear runway show in modern fashion history at the Sala Bianca in Palazzo Pitti, Florence. This was not just a fashion show, it was the birth of the Peacock Revolution, when men's clothing became about more than just function. They invented the trunk show. They pioneered what they called prêt couture, ready-to-wear garments with the attention to detail of bespoke pieces. The polo player logo that Brioni registered in 1952? That was over a decade before Ralph Lauren even existed as a brand. Brioni was playing chess while everyone else was learning checkers. Their craftsmanship credentials are genuinely unmatched. Each Brioni suit requires 22 hours of expert handwork, spread across 220 individual steps. Their master tailors are products of Brioni's own prestigious tailoring school, the Scuola di Alta Sartoria, established in 1985 in Pitt, Italy. This is not just a factory, it is a temple to the dying art of traditional Italian tailoring. They employ 750 people in Pitt alone, representing one of the largest concentrations of master tailors anywhere in the world. The materials they work with read like a luxury fetishist's dream. Super 180 wool, rare vicuna, kiviut, fabrics blended with actual gold and platinum threads. Some of their fabrics cost over 1,000 pounds per meter before a single stitch is sewn. The most expensive suit they ever produced was the Vanquish II in 2008, priced at $43,000, made from vicuna, kiviut, and pashmina. They only made about 100 of these suits each year, emphasizing their commitment to true exclusivity. Then there is the Hollywood connection. Brioni did not just dress celebrities, they became part of cinema history. Clark Gable, John Wayne, Cary Grant in the Golden Age, and more recently, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Jake Gyllenhaal, Brad Pitt, and Denzel Washington. But the crown jewel of their celebrity partnerships was James Bond. From 1995 to 2006, Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig wore exclusively Brioni suits on screen. Think about that. The most stylish fictional character in cinema history, a character defined by impeccable taste, wore Brioni. Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day, and Casino Royale. For over a decade, when the world thought of the pinnacle of masculine elegance, they were looking at Brioni tailoring. Their pricing reflects this positioning. Ready-to-wear suits start around $5,000. Bespoke creations easily surpass $20,000. Their bespoke service, Sartoria Romana, represents 23% of their business and can push prices north of £30,000 for truly exceptional pieces. This is not just expensive. This is Hermes Birkin bag territory for menswear. So, with all of these advantages, unparalleled heritage, revolutionary innovation, Hollywood prestige, master craftsmanship, and prices that signal ultimate luxury, why is Brioni not absolutely dominating the market? The first crack in Brioni's armor appeared when the luxury conglomerate Kering acquired them in 2011. Kering, the parent company of Gucci, Saint Laurent, and Balenciaga, had a different vision for growth than the traditional Italian tailoring house was used to. Suddenly, Brioni was not just answering to Italian master tailors anymore. They were answering to French corporate executives with growth targets and quarterly reports. Between 1995 and 2001, before the Kering acquisition, Brioni's revenue had grown threefold to $150 million. They were doing just fine on their own, thank you very much. But Kering wanted more. They wanted Brioni to compete not just in the rarefied world of bespoke tailoring, but in the broader luxury fashion market dominated by brands like Gucci and Saint Laurent. The creative director carousel began spinning. Brendan Mullane served from 2012 to 2016, maintaining some stability. But then came the decision that nearly destroyed everything Brioni stood for. In March 2016, Brioni shocked the fashion world by appointing Justin O'Shea as creative director. O'Shea was the tattooed Australian former fashion director of Mytheresa, a retail buyer with no formal design training or experience. His aesthetic was street style meets rock and roll, about as far from Italian tailoring tradition as you could get without actively trying to offend people. But O'Shea did not just want to modernize Brioni, he wanted to completely reinvent it. He replaced the classic Brioni logo with a Gothic script that looked more suited to a death metal band than a luxury tailor. He introduced a See Now Buy Now collection that abandoned the careful, seasonal approach that luxury tailoring demands. And then came the campaign that broke the internet for all the wrong reasons, Metallica. In July 2016, O'Shea unveiled his vision for the new Brioni. The campaign featured members of the heavy metal band Metallica, men in their 60s with long gray hair and leather jackets, wearing Brioni suits. The tagline might as well have been that your grandfather's tailor just got a face tattoo. The reaction was swift and brutal. Luca Solca, managing director at Exane BNP Paribas, summed up the industry sentiment. He said that breaking with tradition to inject fresh energy into the business, the same way Gucci and Saint Laurent very successfully did, has not seemed to work at Brioni so far. The risk is always losing traditional customers, to whom Metallica, for example, may have appeared irksome, without gaining new ones. By October 2016, O'Shea was gone. 6 months. That's all it took for one of fashion's most ill-conceived experiments to implode. But the damage was done. Brioni's core customers, wealthy, traditional men who valued craftsmanship and heritage, felt betrayed. Many simply walked away. The aftermath was even more chaotic. Nina Maria Nietzsche was brought in as creative director, but lasted only 1 year before departing in 2018. Norbert Stumpfel took over as design director in October 2018 and managed to bring some stability back to the brand, serving for 7 years before departing in December 2025. But while Brioni was dealing with internal chaos, the entire menswear market was shifting beneath their feet. The casualization of fashion accelerated dramatically during the 2010s. Tech billionaires wore hoodies to congressional hearings. Investment bankers traded their suits for business casual. The COVID pandemic delivered what might have been the fatal blow to formal menswear. In 2022, the United Kingdom Office for National Statistics removed men's suits from its inflation basket of common consumer goods. Suits simply were not being bought often enough to represent everyday spending anymore. United Kingdom spending on men's suits collapsed from £460 million in 2017 to just £279 million in 2021. When government statisticians stop tracking your product category because nobody buys it anymore, you know you are in trouble. This broader trend hit Brioni particularly hard because they had never successfully diversified beyond suiting and formal wear. While competitors like Brunello Cucinelli built empires on luxurious cashmere sweaters, polo shirts, and casual blazers, the kind of elevated casual wear that became the new uniform of success, Brioni remained stubbornly focused on traditional tailoring. The numbers tell the story. By 2025, 70% of luxury spending comes from millennials and Gen Z, according to Bain & Company. These are consumers who grew up in a world where Mark Zuckerberg wore the same gray t-shirt every day and Jeff Bezos conquered the world in business casual. The suit for them is not a symbol of success. It is a costume for weddings and funerals. Brioni tried to respond to these market pressures, but their solutions often created new problems. In 2021, they announced a restructuring plan that involved laying off 320 people across their production lines. This was partly blamed on the pandemic, but industry insiders knew the truth. Demand for their core products was declining, and they needed to cut costs to maintain profitability under Kering's ownership. The quality debate began around this time. Some industry observers argued that Kering's push for increased production and efficiency was leading to a decline in the meticulous craftsmanship that made Brioni legendary. Whether this was true or only perception did not matter, because in luxury, perception is reality. Meanwhile, their competitors were thriving by reading the room differently. Brunello Cucinelli positioned itself as humanistic capitalism and built a luxury lifestyle brand around elevated casual wear. Ermenegildo Zegna diversified into sportswear and accessories. Even traditional players like Kiton expanded their offerings beyond suits while maintaining their tailoring credentials. Brioni's limited production runs, typically fewer than 100 pieces per style, which had once signaled exclusivity, now seemed like an inability to scale. Their master tailors, once the crown jewel of the brand, began to look like an expensive anachronism in a world moving toward efficiency and accessibility. The James Bond connection, which had been such a coup, became another source of frustration. After Casino Royale in 2006, the Bond franchise switched to Tom Ford, leaving Brioni without their most visible brand ambassador just as they needed him most. Tom Ford understood something Brioni missed. The future of luxury menswear was not about perfect traditional tailoring, it was about a more accessible, modern interpretation of elegance. Recent developments suggest Brioni is still searching for its identity and direction. Federico Arrigoni was appointed Chief Executive Officer in May 2025, replacing Mehdi Benabaji, who moved to another Kering brand, Ginori 1735. Norbert Stumpfel left in December 2025 after 7 years, which means the house is once again looking for creative leadership. The brand celebrated its 80th anniversary in November 2025 with an event in Rome called Tailoring Legends. The irony was not lost on industry observers. Brioni was celebrating its past while struggling to define its future. Mehdi Benabaji had claimed before his departure that the brand had been doing very well since 2021, with constant growth at really high levels, and he cited double-digit increases in each renovated shop. But if things were going so well, why the constant leadership changes? Why the continued struggles to connect with younger consumers? The broader luxury market context makes Brioni's challenges even more stark. According to McKinsey, the personal luxury goods sector saw a 2% contraction in 2024, marking the first decline in years. Claudia D'Arpizio from Bain reported that approximately 50 million consumers either exited or were pushed out of the luxury market within the last 2 years. When the entire luxury sector is contracting, brands that cannot adapt quickly find themselves in serious trouble. Kering itself has been struggling. In 2024, the group's stock price plummeted by more than 40%, with Gucci's declining performance a major factor. Rumors periodically surface about Kering potentially selling Brioni, though the company consistently denies any such plans. In corporate terms, when your parent company is under pressure and you are not a growth driver, your future becomes uncertain very quickly. So where does this leave Brioni? They still possess all the elements that should make them successful: unmatched craftsmanship, incredible heritage, prestigious positioning, and products that represent the absolute pinnacle of their category. Their suits are still worn by presidents and movie stars. Their tailors still represent a dying art form that commands respect and admiration. But in luxury fashion, past success does not guarantee future survival. The market has moved toward brands that can bridge traditional craftsmanship with contemporary relevance. Consumers want heritage, but they also want accessibility. They want quality, but they also want versatility. Brioni's challenge is not that they make bad products. Their suits remain among the finest in the world. Their challenge is that they make products for a world that increasingly does not exist. The titans of industry who once wore Brioni suits to merger meetings now wear Brunello Cucinelli cashmere to their Zoom calls. The Hollywood stars who once needed impeccable tailoring for red carpets now get photographed in Tom Ford sneakers at coffee shops. The brand that revolutionized menswear in 1952 now finds itself trapped by its own revolution. They created the template for luxury menswear that the entire industry followed for 70 years. But templates, no matter how perfect, eventually become constraints. And in fashion, the only constant is change. Brioni should be winning. They have every advantage a luxury brand could want. But in an industry where adaptation is survival, having all the right credentials for yesterday's game does not help you win tomorrow's competition. The house that taught the world how men should dress now needs to learn how men actually want to dress. And that might be the hardest lesson of all.